Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening for what every hard of hearing person needs to know before a medical encounter. First, I would like to thank Cindy Thompson of Alternative Communication Services for providing captioning this evening. Thanks very much, Cindy. And I would love to welcome Valerie Stafford Mallis. Valerie is the Vice Chairperson of the HLAA Board of Trustees, and she's the Business Development Director for Alternative Communication Services. Valerie is so knowledgeable on this subject, and I know she has a lot of great information to share, so I'm going to go ahead and give the mic to Valerie. Thank you again, Valerie.
Thank you, Nancy. And I would like to also thank all of you that have taken time out of your busy day or your busy evening to join us this evening. And I hope that we're going to share some things with you that will be useful as you encounter the healthcare system. And I want this to be the start of great things for all of you. And the reason I'm saying that is Hearing Loss Association of America, HLAA, is aware that this is an issue of great concern to everyone, and members of the HLAA board and members of the HLAA chapters are working on this. So this webinar is really by no means the final word on anything, and instead will be a springboard to great things to come. And board member Tanya Colucci will be spearheading this task force, so please stay tuned for more. So without further ado, let's get started. You know who I am. I will tell you that I am a person with profound hearing loss. I have bilateral cochlear implants. When I have them attached, as I do right now, I hear like someone with mild to moderate hearing loss. When they are not attached, I hear nothing. So that's going to be kind of the environment that I'm going to face when I encounter the medical system, and we'll be talking about that just a little bit more. What we're going to talk about are challenging listening situations, what the law says about accommodations, what your rights and responsibilities are. We're going to talk about high-tech and low-tech things that can help you. We're going to talk about how you go about matching your needs to the accommodation, or rather I should say matching the accommodation or the assist to your needs, and how to communicate that to your healthcare team, and talk about some tips to make your life a little bit easier. So we have a lot to talk about in the next 57 minutes, and we'll get going. When I say challenging listening situations, I can't really think of any environment where challenging listening situations have greater consequences than they do in the healthcare environment. You may be trying to contact your provider's office. You may be trying to communicate with a first responder in an emergency. You may be presenting to a doctor's office and responding to questions about your healthcare history that will in turn cause important decisions to be made about your treatment. Or you may be actually in the hospital trying to communicate with a surgical team or a procedure team. Communication in these types of situations is challenging even in the best of environments and the best of situations, and certainly for the person with hearing loss, they present additional challenges. So that's going to be what we're talking about this evening. We are not going to have time, unfortunately, to drill down deeply into each one of these situations. So I am not going to be able to say everything that there is to be said about this, but I can tell you that the Healthcare Communication Task Force is working on each one of these challenging listening situations, and they're going to have great information for you as the year goes on and into next year. So definitely stay tuned. All right, your rights. First of all, you are entitled to full participation in your health care. You are entitled to effective communication so that you can participate fully in your health care. And that effective communication has to have primary consideration given to how you define it. So what does that mean? Well, that means if you are an oral deaf person who communicates in English and the healthcare provider only offers you a sign language interpreter, if you don't communicate in sign language, that's not going to meet the burden that the healthcare provider has to provide you with effective communication. So it's going to be really, really important for you to know what you need. Also, you cannot be charged for the auxiliary aids and services that you need to provide effective communication. And staff must be conscientious in trying to help you achieve effective communication. So those are your rights. But as you'll see at the lower right-hand side, I have the scale, the balance of justice, and for every right, there's also a corresponding responsibility. And we'll be talking more about that in just a minute. What I'm showing on this screen is a document that comes from the United States Department of Justice, the ADA. And the name of this, if you can't read it, is Communicating with People Who Are Deaf or Hard of Hearing in Hospital Settings. I'm going to speak the web address that you click on to get this document, and I'm going to ask the cart writer if she can type this. So if you want to look at this document yourself, it is www.ada.gov/HOSP-COMBR.htm. So that's www.ada.gov/HOSP-COMBR.htm. That stands for Hospital Communication Brief.htm. So you can also Google ADA Business Brief, Communicating with People Who Are Deaf or Hard of Hearing in Hospital Settings. And I promise you it will come up. I just checked it. So why am I making such a big deal about this document? I would recommend that you retrieve it, copy it, and take it with you. It talks about the different kinds of communication in the healthcare environment. There's the casual communication where you're ordering a Coke in the hospital cafeteria. There's the slightly more involved communication where you're responding to questions. And then there is the more complicated communication where a healthcare provider is talking to you about your condition, your treatment, your prognosis, and so on. And it makes a distinction between the complexity of the communications. Excuse me just a minute, I need to take a sip of water. Thank you. One size does not fit all with our communication needs. So while you might get away with just writing notes back and forth to the person in the hospital cafeteria who's fixing your lunch or serving you a soft drink, your communication needs in that situation are going to be much different when the physician comes into your hospital room or your examining room to talk to you about the results of your test and what that means for your treatment. So, for complex communications of significant length and significant consequence, more consideration has to be given to your preferred method of communication, whether it's English with text support, such as CART, what you're seeing here, or whether it's an oral interpreter, or a sign language interpreter, or a cued speech interpreter. And this particular document explains what all of that is. So I would use this as a teaching tool when you're requesting what you need. Should you have to do that? No. But it is what it is, and forewarned is forearmed, and I just believe that this is a really good thing to take with you when you encounter healthcare providers. Okay, I'm going to move the slides. So, what's reasonable to ask for? A dry erase board and markers, paper and pens, online scheduling of appointments if it's available, online registration if it's available, Notation of your hearing status in all records. Having staff that know how to accept and place relay calls if that's what you use to make telephone calls. Having staff that know how to assist people with hearing loss. All of those things are reasonable to ask for. You might find that you might have to do some teaching as far as letting staff know what you need as far as assistance with your hearing loss. And the good news is there are resources available to help you with that, which we'll be talking about in just a minute. Other reasonable things to ask for. If you communicate in sign language, and that's your preferred method of communication, it is absolutely reasonable for you to ask for a sign language interpreter. You might have to wait for it, but it's reasonable for you to ask, and you cannot be charged for it. If you are a person who communicates in written and spoken English, having CART for complex communications, like we're having for this webinar, is reasonable for you to ask for. Having an amplified telephone in your room, if that's what you need. Having the ability to amplify the sound of the TV. Having captions for your TV. Having a visual alert that lets you know that your phone is ringing or someone is trying to come into your room. Those are all reasonable. Hearing loss identification signs above your bed, on your door, on your chart. Those are all reasonable things to ask for. My advice to you is that you bring them with you. And I'll give you some resources in a few minutes on how to get those to happen. If you use assistive listening devices such as pocket talkers, bring it with you. If something happens and you don't have it, it's reasonable for you to ask for it. It may be that the facility will not know what you're talking about. So that's why it's always preferable to bring your own device if you have it. Your responsibilities are to understand your hearing loss and know how it affects your ability to understand and to be understood, and to know which accommodations help you. You really cannot expect your healthcare providers to know what it is that you need to communicate effectively. Well, what happens if you're not really sure what you need or what you could ask for? This is where your local hearing loss chapters can help you so much. If you're not affiliated with the Hearing Loss Association of America chapter, seek one. Find out who they are, where they meet. Talk to people. They can tell you what has worked for them. Be prepared to advise what your communication needs are before you're admitted to the hospital, before you go to the doctor's office, before you encounter the healthcare system. It's very important for you to know and to be able to communicate that clearly. Ask to have information put in writing in your chart. And this can be kind of tricky when you're dealing with electronic medical records. I was in a situation myself a few years ago where someone was taking my history and they were looking down at the computer and typing everything into the computer, talking to the computer, and they asked me a question, I answered it, and the information did not get captured. Therefore, it did not go into the electronic medical record. Therefore, some things happened down the road because of that. Now what I've learned is to ask the individual typing the information into the computer to let me see it when they finish, before they hit the enter button, so that I can visually verify that everything I've said is in there. You can also sometimes ask for a printout afterwards. Very important. And that's not something that they will offer to let you do, so you have to ask for it, nicely but firmly. When you're contacting providers to get an appointment or have a prescription refilled or inquire about a test result, if there's an online portal that you can use it. That's obviously the easiest thing. But if it's not available, explain if you use caption phones or telecommunication relay systems in order to communicate. Make sure they know how to do that. It may be that you go by the office first and speak to them. Ask if you can email or text. Sometimes if you explain to them that you have a hearing loss and you don't communicate well on the phone, and that it'll be a lot easier on everybody if you can email them or text them, sometimes they'll let you do that. Again, verify that the records show your hearing loss and what you need in order to communicate effectively. Most important, never bluff. If you have not understood something that has been said to you or a question that has been asked, ask for a restatement or ask for a repeat as many times as you need to. The healthcare environment is an information-rich environment, and if you misunderstand what's said or you bluff and you don't try to understand, it could cost you dearly. So don't bluff in this environment. And express appreciation for any help that you receive, because everybody is under pressure in the healthcare world now. I don't think we always understand as healthcare consumers that when we visit a doctor's office, frequently people are trying to meet deadlines for seeing a certain number of patients per hour or spending a certain amount of time, and that amount of time only doing a history and taking in information. And sometimes people can get hurried and they can get frazzled. So when somebody reaches out to you and tries to help you achieve effective communication, never forget to say thank you. It will go so far. In the waiting room, inform the receptionist when you check in that you have a hearing loss, explain that you may need a visual alert, and ask them how they plan on alerting you that it's your time to go back into the treatment area. If they have a pager, if they could text you, if they are going to have the nurse stand at the door and call your name, that's probably not going to work. So in that case, you advise the receptionist to please ask the nurse to walk over to you and tap you on your shoulder and let you know that it's time for you to go back. Again, don't bluff. Make sure they know what you need and express appreciation for any help that they give you. If you can, if you're going to be scheduled for an inpatient procedure, visit the hospital before it's time for you to go. Go to the pre-admissions department. Explain that you have a hearing loss. Ask for them to explain to you what the procedure is. Ask if you can get a copy, a blank copy of all of the questions that you are going to be asked so that you can prepare yourself. Ask if it'll be possible to write your answers on that and have them work from that. Nothing is more difficult for a person with hearing loss than playing 20 questions. And again, frequently you're across the desk from the admissions person or the pre-admissions person. They're going to be looking at a computer, staring down at the keyboard and asking you questions. So you may find yourself having to many times repeat to them, I need you please to lift your face and look at me when you speak to me, so that the sound comes directly to me, I can speech read you, and I can read the expressions on your face. You may have access to some little buttons that say, face me, I'm hard of hearing. Those are great. We had vendors at HLAA convention that were passing those out. If not, there are some hospital kits that some other chapters of HLAA have done that have those in them, and I'll be showing you some pictures. So, again, be prepared to educate. When you get to patient services, inform them of your admit date and your communication needs. Ask them if you can have a sign above your bed, on your medical chart, on your door. Sometimes they will tell you no because of patient privacy, but it might be that you can sign a waiver waiving that patient privacy rule because you want everyone who comes into your room or into your treatment area to know that you have hearing loss and to know that you need to be able to see them and they need to face you. Ask about the policy for hearing aids and cochlear implants. Ask if they can be attached to your body for as long as possible, and then ask what happens to them afterwards when the time comes when they must be detached from your body. Ask where they're going to be kept for safekeeping, and then ask how they can be reattached as soon as possible. Speak to your treatment team about masks. Anesthesia people wear masks. Other members of your treatment team wear masks. You're not going to be able to speech read when they have a mask. So make sure that everyone knows you need to be able to see a person's face in order to speech read. Bring your assistive listening devices. As I said, if you have Pocket Talker, personal FM system, bring that. I speak to everyone about my hearing loss. I don't care if it's the person refilling my water glass, if it's the person that comes into the room who's mopping the floor. Why do I do that? Because hospitals are a team, they are a network, and the more people that know about your hearing loss, the better the chances are that people are going to be more vigilant about practicing effective communication techniques with you when they speak to you. Talk about the closed captions on your TV. Ask somebody to show you how to turn them on or to turn them on for you. Make sure if you're a cochlear implant wearer that everybody knows you have cochlear implants and that you don't have MRIs. There are a few brands of cochlear implants now that will allow MRIs, but for the most part, most of us are wearing cochlear implants that do not accommodate MRIs. So it's very, very important that you do that. I'm showing you some of the hearing loss symbols throughout this presentation, but ask about hearing loss identification symbols to the entrance to your room and over your bed. You can Google hearing loss symbols and they will come right up. You can also make your own. You can get some of the HLAA hospital communication kits and take those with you. Take a third party with you to listen and to assist you with effective communication if it's at all possible. Sometimes it's not. You may have to sign the HIPAA privacy forms first so that that person can be with you when healthcare communication is taking place. But it's very important to do that if you can. In the hospital, again, inform everybody about your communication needs. Ask for instructions about your hearing aids to be put on your gown or in a bag or on your medical record. Some people will wear the Face Me, I Have Hearing Loss buttons or stickers on their gowns. Bring a rigid container with your name on it or a baggie with your name on it to put your hearing aids or cochlear implants in. You would be amazed at how easy it is for these devices to get lost. And if you have somebody with you that knows where your hearing aid or cochlear implant is going to be put, that's great. If that hearing aid or cochlear implants can be put with that person, that's even better. And make sure that you're clear on what the arrangements for reinsertion of cochlear implant external processors are. Can the staff do it for you? Does it have to be a family member? What is the policy? You don't want any surprises. If you can ask people to speak to you before they put their surgical masks on, that's wonderful. That works in the dentist's office as well. If you have a listening helper, if you can keep them with you until the very last minute, that is wonderful. If you have paper and pen and pictorial symbols to communicate with staff, that can help as well. And I'll be showing you some pictures of those pictorial symbols that you can use. So what should you take? Sounds like you're going to walk into that hospital with a whole suitcase full of stuff. I would print up a set of communication tip sheets. What do you need to communicate effectively? Make multiple copies of those. If you have your hearing aid symbols, your hearing loss symbols, you can put those in the bag as well. If you have a Please Face Me badge that you want to pin to your pillow or your gown, or if you have Please Face Me stickers, take those. Extra hearing aid batteries, your cochlear implant processor or your hearing aid itself, and a storage container for that to go in. Make sure the storage container has your name on it. Pen and paper to communicate with healthcare providers, or a small dry erase board. All of these will work. I'm showing you pictures of the Please Face Me. I need to read your lips. That's on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side are pictures of pocket talkers, just in case you don't happen to know what those are. We talk about some of the resources that are available. First of all, your Hearing Loss Association of America, HLAA chapters, are your biggest source of resources. They've been there, they understand. So talk to people in your chapter. Call the HLAA or email or text HLAA National if you don't belong a chapter. Go on the website. Look to see where the chapters are if you have concerns or questions. This is a hospital kit that the Hearing Loss Association of San Antonio put together, and I'm going to show you what each component of this kit looks like. You can order it from $5, and the email address of the individual who I contacted to get mine was bobatex@AOL.com. And this particular kit has an instruction sheet on how to use the kit, a brochure about you and your hearing loss going to the hospital, a hard of hearing sign, a pictographic card with common medical situations and a symbol to represent that, hearing loss stickers, which is the universal sign, the Please Face Me button, communication tips cards, identification cards identifying you as a person with hearing loss and special communication needs, and a pad and pencil for writing. So I'm going to flip through this and show you in more detail. A few years ago, some of the HLAA chapters did a brochure called You and Your Hearing Loss Are Going to the Hospital. And it basically has the things that we've talked about on this webinar, but it's a really nice brochure for you to have, to review, take with you, make copies. And it talks about some of the different situations, pre-admissions, in the waiting room, your rights as a person with hearing loss, tips to reduce communication difficulties while you're in the hospital, all of the things that we're talking about tonight. So that's the first thing that's in there. These are the medical pictograms. They were actually donated by the Texas Sertoma Club, and they have pictures for nurse, doctor, bedpan, coffee, very important, bed, wheelchair, TV, pillow, medicines. Also, symbols for things like I'm hot, I'm cold, I hurt, I want to lie down, I want to sit up, I need to use the bathroom, I want to move, I need water, I'm hungry. So these things, you can point to them, and your healthcare provider can point to them as their way of asking you if you're in pain or if you're hot or cold. I'm hard of hearing. Again, this is a really simple thing. You can actually make it yourself by using Word. You download this symbol for the universal symbol for hearing loss, and you just type in, I'm hard of hearing. Please get my attention. Face me. Speak a little slower. Whatever you need. You can also say, mine, I said, I wear cochlear implants. Without them, I can't hear you. Because I want people to know that I may look like I hear all right, but if I don't have my external processors attached, I hear nothing. So if you make them yourself, you can customize them. Here's one for I am deaf. Get my attention. Face me. Write or sign to me. Again, these are all in the Texas Hospital Communication Kit. Washington State also did a hospital communication kit, and I'm going to show you all of that. The items in the hospital communication kit are, again, an instruction sheet with suggestions on how to use each one of the items. A hospital brochure, again, the same one that you saw in the Texas. A laminated placard that says, I am hard of hearing. Please face me. Please speak clearly. And on the other side, I believe it says, I am deaf. Hearing loss stickers, the Please Face Me button, communication tips, special needs cards, the writing pad, and the pen. And also there is, number 10 is a little bag that has a decal for you to put your hearing aid or your cochlear implants in. So these are the Please Face Me placards. Again, you can make these yourself. One is I am deaf, and then the other side is I'm hard of hearing. I like these because they're laminated. The other helpful item is, instead of a rigid storage container, this is a small device storage bag. It's a baggie, actually, with a decal, a sticker on it for your name and your room number if you know what it is, and a place where you can pin it to your hospital gown or your bed or whatever, and then instructions about how to use the bag. Also, the special needs cards is something that you can make multiple copies of and carry with you. It says, I wear a cochlear implant, highly sensitive to magnetic fields, or I'm deaf, or I'm hard of hearing. If you can understand sign language, it gives you a place to indicate. If you cannot understand sign language, it gives you a place to indicate. If you need TV captioning or an amplified phone or a TTY or whatever, it gives you a place to write that in. Also, to wake you, it says blink the light or tap my foot or arm. So there's a lot of really good information on this little card. Again, you can make this yourself. At the end of the webinar, we will be happy to make this PowerPoint available to you. You can email me or you can email Nancy. They post all of this. The webinar is going to be archived. So you can retrieve these things and you can make them on your own if you want. So let's review what we've talked about. We've talked about your rights, full participation in your health care, equal access to quality outcomes, conscientious efforts by staff to assist you, effective communication as you define it, auxiliary aids and services to assist you, and no extra charges to you. They can't charge you for this. So those are your rights. And somebody just wrote a note, please have her tell everyone that staff needs to be informed that hearing aid must not get wet. Absolutely. That goes along with your monologue that when you tell staff what you need. If you wear hearing aids and cochlear implants, one of the things that you need is for those devices to not get wet. That's why putting it in a waterproof Ziploc bag or a waterproof rigid container is a good way to help keep it from getting wet. Good point, Laura. So what are your responsibilities? Your responsibilities are to understand your hearing loss, how it affects your ability to understand and to be understood in challenging listening environments, and not to fake it. If you don't understand, say so, and continue to say so until you do understand. And if people want to continue to just repeat the same thing to you over and over and over, ask them to restate instead of repeat. Sometimes hearing it said a different way will help your understanding. It's your responsibility to know what you need. If you need CART, if you need a sign language interpreter, it's not your responsibility to provide it, but it's your responsibility to know what it is that you need. And it's often very, very helpful if you can advise your healthcare provider how to go about getting it. If you are a person who uses a sign language interpreter, or you are a person who uses CART captions for complex communications, do you know who in your community provides these services? I bet you could find out if you go to your local Hearing Loss Association chapter, or if you have a Deaf Services Center, they can help you. And that can be very helpful to your healthcare provider to know how to get this stuff. You're the expert in your hearing loss. They don't know. Your responsibility is to advise of your communication needs before and during your admission. Never stop asking for what you need, and never stop telling people what you need. And the simpler you can make it for the people on your healthcare team, the better off you'll be. That's why putting things in writing, having the little communication cards that spell out what you need, and having multiple copies of those that you can share with people are so helpful. get the information, put in your chart that you have a hearing loss, and do everything that you can to verify that it's in writing. What I do when I check into a healthcare treatment office is I hand them something in writing, and I sign it and I date it, and it describes my hearing loss and what I need. I ask to have that put into my chart along with my insurance information and the history forms that I fill out, all of that. And I tell people that I'm making a copy of that and making a note to file that I have given them a copy. And that seems to be helpful. So I would like to open it up to questions. Somebody is handing them the Dear Doctor letter. Yes, there is a Dear Doctor letter that some people have used. It's been composed by various hearing loss organizations and chapters that explains what you need. So you can actually write your own Dear Doctor letter ahead of time, make copies, and take it with you and give it to everybody on your surgical team, on your doctor's office, you name it. I have a copy of a Dear Doctor letter that I can share with you if you would like to have. And I'm going to open it up for questions. I think Nancy Macklin has been monitoring the chat, and I think I will ask Nancy to feed me questions.
I have, and this is a really good point that Kathleen brings up. She says, I want to reiterate that if the deaf person or hard of hearing person who does not sign but can read lips, there are oral interpreters who can assist with that, especially when the person is struggling reading the lips of staff. She says she's a certified oral interpreter who does work in the healthcare system. Some people are hard to lip read. That is what we are here for, and that is a great point.
Yes, this is Valerie. Kathleen, that is a wonderful point. Thank you. In the ADA business brief I mentioned earlier about communicating with people who are deaf and hard of hearing in the hospital setting, on page 1 they talk about oral interpreters. Let me just take a sip of something. Thank you. So that would be a really good thing for an individual to ask for, and the ADA business brief explains what an oral interpreter is. And if you are a person who reads lips and anticipates that you would like to have an oral interpreter, do a little homework before you go to the healthcare provider and find out where those people reside in your community and how you would go about getting them to assist you, because I can almost assure you your healthcare provider is not going to know. Great point. Anything else, Nancy?
Yes. Margaret said that she recently had eye surgery, and because she had her eye patched and could not put on glasses, she gave the rules to her sister to follow after surgery. She says, my sister did not read them. I had sent an email to the hospital that the rules should have been read to me verbally. Good point. Sisters sometimes, huh?
Well, you know what happens in the healthcare environment is nobody goes to the doctor because they want to. Nobody had surgery or a procedure because they want to. And so it can be a really stressful situation. And when people are under duress, sometimes they don't think as clearly as they do when the sky is blue and the sun is shining. So again, that's why we emphasize thinking the situation through ahead of time, visiting as many of the treatment sites you're going to be involved with as you can ahead of time while the sun is still shining, writing things down ahead of time so that you don't have to make these kinds of complex decisions when you're under duress. It's very, very challenging.
I have a question for you, Valerie, that happened to us recently. We had a staff person here in the hospital for an extended period of time who has a profound hearing loss. And it seemed that she could not get the attention of staff people well enough to really write down in the chart what it is she needed. And it became problematic when she just got, one shift of nurses trained. Then the shift would change and she'd have to start all over again because they failed to really write it down in the chart. So in that case, what can you do?
That is tough, and it is not at all unusual. That kind of goes back to what I said about tell everyone you come in contact with about your hearing loss, including the person who empties your water glass, the person who mops the floor, the person who comes in and sells you magazines if you want something. Because there are shifts, and you have to just keep saying it over and over and over. If you are conscious and you have a stack of the communication cards or the Dear Doctor letters that explain what you need, you may very well have to pass one of those out to every person you come in contact with, every time you come in contact with them. Because it's going to seem like every day it's a different person, a different shift. Very, very, very frustrating. I have Mary Jo asking me, could you provide us once again the link for the ADA article? Sure, Mary.
I did put it in here, Valerie, the ada.gov.
Great. Awesome.
Yeah, it's in the chat box there. Just a reminder, too, that this webinar is recorded and will be available on our website along with the PowerPoint, so you'll be able to go back and review. Let's see, Richard Atwell asks, do you recommend that hard of hearing people wear any kind of medic alert bracelet to alert healthcare professionals of the hearing loss? My wife is concerned that if my hearing aids become dislodged, healthcare professionals would not know of my hearing loss.
Good question, Richard. I believe wholeheartedly that we should all wear medical alert bracelets. Few of us do, but I definitely think that we should, because what happens if you are out in the world going about your business and an unfortunate event happens to you and you become unconscious? A first responder comes on the scene. How in the world are they going to know? So I believe that we really should all wear the medical alert bracelets. And yes, I'd like to respond to what you said about the stigma against hearing loss and hearing aids, and I absolutely agree with you. But in this case, the consequences of ineffective communication, in my opinion, far outweigh any stigma that an individual might encounter by identifying themselves as a person with hearing loss. I believe that if you are a person with hearing loss, sooner or later that hearing loss itself is going to announce that fact. And ineffective communication, I believe, is more stigmatizing than the presence of a hearing aid or a cochlear implant. That's my bias, but I think that in the healthcare environment, you have to do everything you can to make sure that everyone knows that you don't hear typically, and because of that, extra care must be taken to communicate with you. And somebody wrote, and it's also time to educate the blankety blank blank CDC about hearing loss.
I think they got the
Tell
message.
Tell us how you really feel. I love it.
Eloise said, I think it's time to educate the hospital systems about hearing loss. Eloise, you might have been around quite some time ago when we were SHHH and we had the hospital kit. And we worked with chapters across the country to take those to their hospitals to implement communication access with patients. I don't know really what's happened to that. I guess it was difficult for us to keep up to date, and it kind of got pushed aside. Anna, being from the nursing background, has started a task force to look at this issue again, and I know that they are developing documents and other things. So stay tuned on that. I think that we will have more information posted on our website soon, and that's really all about I know of that project. Valerie, you may know more.
Well, this is Valerie. I don't know a whole lot more except to tell you that I have taken a sneak peek at some of the documents that are in the very early stages, and they are totally awesome. So I am really, really excited about what's going to roll out in 2016. And Eloise, I'd like to speak to just a little bit about the chapter efforts that you spoke about. You know, the thing about this medical education or medical communication access education project is it is never ending. And the reason it is never ending is because the turnover in the healthcare environment is so high. So you can saturate your medical community with medical communication access information and get everybody trained, and everybody has religion and knows just what to do. And I guarantee you, in a year, 50% of those people will no longer be on the job. So you just have to keep doing it over and over and over. And that kind of sustained effort is really, really challenging for volunteer organizations like hearing loss chapters to do. But it is the nature of the beast. The hospital task force, the medical communication task force, is going to make that easier for you because they're going to update some of the tools and provide those for you and come up with strategies and share best practices with you. So the whole idea is for them to work with you to empower the chapters to fight the good fight and keep it up. But thank you very much.
Valerie, what if you cross all your T's and dot all your I's, you've done everything right, you're in the hospital, and you're still not getting anywhere? What's the next step? What can you do?
Good question. You should ask to speak to the nursing supervisor. I'm assuming we're talking about inpatient now. On every shift, there is a charge nurse that's in charge of the patients on that floor. So you want to ask to speak to that charge nurse. Most likely, that individual will be an RN. There is also, within the hospital environment, usually there is a director of nursing or an assistant director of nursing. You can ask to speak to that individual. They usually will not be available on the nights and weekends and holidays, but there will always be a charge nurse. You can also ask to speak to the patient ambassador or the patient ombudsman. I'm sorry, Cartwriter. Ombudsman. Hey, you got it. You can ask to speak to a hospital administrator. You can ask to speak to the hospital's risk management person. And you might mention that their failure to establish effective communication with you is exposing them to risk of lawsuit, so could you please speak to their risk management person? So there are some things you can do. If there's a patient advocate within the hospital, you can ask to speak to that individual. Some hospitals, they call them different things. They may call them patient advocates, patient liaisons. Some hospitals call them service excellence representatives. But somebody beyond the people that you're currently dealing with. question.
And then Valerie, what should a person with hearing loss do if they're faced with an emergency and there's not time to put all these things in place?
Good question. The medical alert bracelet can be really helpful. The other thing that I do, behind my driver's license, I have my little special communication card that says I am a person with hearing loss and require visual communication, visual access in order to communicate, and that if I do not respond, it is because I have not heard them. I use that in healthcare when I present and they ask for my insurance card. I give them this little communication card as well and ask them to make a copy of it. When I get stopped for speeding, which I promise you has only happened once or twice, and the officer asks to see my driver's license, I also give him this card, because that's another environment where communication can go south pretty quickly with very bad results.
Right. Joanne DeVries has commented that she's very excited to be on the task force on this issue, and that it'll make everything easier for people on the local level to deal with their hospitals and make a difference there. So thank you, Joanne, for taking the time to be on the task force and participate in that effort.
And I'd like to thank Joanne too. Joanne's the president of our local chapter, and 5 people can't do everything that Joanne does. So thank you, Joanne. A big shout out to you, and a shout out to Tony Iacolucci and all of the other people on the task force and the work that you're doing. Somebody has written in the chat room that their communication preference is dealing with voices in the lower frequency, which usually means men. That's not uncommon for people with hearing loss to have difficulty understanding higher pitched voices. So that's what you have to tell them. If you can't understand the female members of your treatment team, ask them to lower their voice or to get a male to speak to you so that you can understand. It's all about what you need. Debbie Hagner from Florida is advising us that Deaf Seniors of America have the communication cards for free. So that's another resource. And you can Google Deaf Seniors of America, and that'll take you right to their website. Thank you, Debbie. What else?
Just wondering if you know of a source for the Medical Alert bracelet for hearing loss, and do you know of one that says no MRI if you have a cochlear implant?
Yes. I can't quote it to you off the top of my head, but you can actually Google Medical Alert bracelet, and it'll take you to those. And usually they're divided up by condition, and you can go for hearing loss, or you can also Google cochlear implant no MRI Medical Alert bracelet, and they'll come up. And believe it or not, some of them are really fancy. Some of them are really basic, so you should be able to find something that will meet your needs. If you're not able to find it, please email me, and I will send you the information, because I have done this myself. I'm putting up my email address. It is valerie@accaptions.com. Anything that you want, any questions that you have that you think about after this webinar, please email me, and I'm happy to share any resources. We have time for a few more questions.
See, I'm not seeing any other questions at this moment, but I want to take this opportunity to thank you again for presenting, Valerie. You are always a wealth of information, and I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure, and I just want all of you to know, again, that this is a personal thing. What works for you may not work for me, may not work for your neighbor, but it's so important. It could be the difference between life and death. So if you're not sure about something, reach out. Reach out to your Hearing Loss Association chapter, reach out to the national organization, reach out to me. go online, get what you need while the sun is still shining. Laura has asked if she can put in a plug for myidband.com. Well, Laura,
Sure.
if you type your comment, I'll be happy to read it. So it's myidband.com. They have metal bands you can attach that say hearing impaired. So, Laura, does that mean you can attach them to your watch that you already wear? She says you could if you want. Very cool.
Huh.
Very cool. That one I did not know about. See, there is safety and there is strength in numbers. Kathleen Lanker asked about necklaces. Yes, there are medical alert necklaces. Absolutely there are. And you can usually find those sold in the same place that the medical alert bracelets are sold.
I see a potential exhibitor here.
Yeah, come to HLAA convention next summer and exhibit.
Absolutely.
You guys are great.
Laura says.
All right, Joanne. Joanne's working it. Again, thank you so much for spending Wednesday night with us, or if you're on the West Coast, it's still about 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. It was an honor. Thank you for letting me spend some time with you this evening, and I learned from you, and I'm so proud to be a part of this organization, and let's keep it going, gang.
All right, thanks again, Valerie. The replay of the webinar will be posted on our website. Usually takes me a little bit of time to turn it around, but it should be there within the next couple of weeks. Thank you again.
Thank you for
See you next time.
26-fingered Cindy, our part writer.
Thanks again, Cindy. Yes, indeed. Thank you very much, Cindy Thompson.
Good
night, everybody.